Hello everyone and welcome to Riding the Pine, the only sports podcast certified organic by the FDA, just like all of Tom Brady's body. Now I have Lou and Tom with me today, and they didn't like that joke. They thought that was lame.
No, I'm just very, I didn't expect to think about Tom right now. And,
Tom, I mean...
I think I'm suffering from the vapors.
I just... The supple, non-rigid muscle is what I'm into, so, he's got me going.
He's got that very soft muscle. It's very... I bet he's excellent at yoga. He's never muscle-locked in anything he tries to do.
I don't think he's capable of cramping. Anyways, today we're going to do the NFC and AFC Wests, respectively. We're going to talk about football because it's happening. Sadly, today's Hall of Fame game, as of today's recording, got canceled due to rubbery fields. Anyways, we're also going to talk Russell Westbrook's contract, which was very surprising, and then we're gonna close this out with I have a question for both Lou and Dom regarding the Olympics that are happening right now, specifically men's basketball, and we're gonna explore that in great detail and depth. Don't worry, it's not gonna be that serious. I don't really care for the Olympics that much. Stick around.
So if we're talking great depth, obviously we're not talking about Draymond Green, right?
Wow. Should we talk about the dick pic real quick?
No. God, no. I was talking about his political views. No, I do not want to talk about his
Draymond
dick.
has a normal-sized penis for a very tall man. Anyways, so we've started doing a breakdown of the conferences in the NFC and the AFC, and now we're on to the West. We're going clockwise. We did South last time, so if you missed it, go back and watch that. It's your civic duty or something. Election joke. Just insert that somewhere.
Watch it, communist.
So when you talk about the AFC West, obviously the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl last year. Very different team on paper now. And I feel like that maybe should be our starting point because they're the champions. So, guys, how do you feel as an NFL fan about the Denver Broncos right now? Because none of us are really fans of Denver, but we do respect the fact they had a rad fucking defense last year and a garbage old man at quarterback. Are you excited about this? Is it just sort of like a situation?
I can't think of a time in my viewership of the NFL, so going back about 20 years now, where the defending Super Bowl champions are, on paper, now the worst team in their division. I can't think of a time that's happened, because, look at it. I've got them at fourth place in the division now because we don't know what Paxton's going to do. It's confirmed they have no fucking running game. They're in
excuse me, sir. They signed Ronnie Hillman for another year. So.
Oh man, awesome! Hey, Monty Ball will be out of jail in time for like week 3 of the NFL season, so maybe they could go back and get him too. No, it really is an amazing turnaround in the AFC West to see what's happened. But that's
usually when
people
say amazing,
the Broncos.
Usually when people say amazing turnaround, it's like a positive thing. Like this person was addicted to drugs, but in an amazing turnaround, now they're a small business owner.
No, for the division, it's an amazing turnaround. If you would have looked at the division,
not for the Broncos.
not for the Broncos, but for the division as a whole, if you would have looked at this division, sans Broncos 3 years ago, Alex Smith-led Chiefs, Raiders floating on the SS mediocrity that they are, and then Phillip Rivers, Cheeseburger Rivers, having no idea what they're going to do there. The division was a wreck 3 years ago, and today, I'm going to step out on a limb and say it's the best division in football, right?
Yeah, I'd certainly say it has the most parity. That's for sure. I don't know if there's a Super Bowl winner in there, but yeah, it's definitely. I'd say it's probably the hardest to win in the AFC divisionally.
It's the AFC. It's the AFC division.
Basically, I don't know if it's the best necessarily as far as records when they shake out at the end of the year. The NFC North could be pretty fucking great, but the AFC West is definitely going to be the hardest to win in. Like, the members of that are going to have lots of tough games. Dom, you're trying to get in here, and I'm sorry we're cutting your balls off. Please, have the floor, sir.
All right, well, yeah, I just want to... you know what? If Paxton Lynch's hair
He
is
is
anything to go
I
off
hate
of, he's
his
not gonna
face.
be doing much.
Like, I really hate Russell Wilson. Paxton Lynch is climbing to number 2. I have to get a feel for his personality. But, oh, man. Paxton, like, with that fucking... That what's going on?
His facial hair is the worst.
What's
his
going on
His facial hair
there?
is the worst in the NFL. Shave
like
that shit off, dude.
Yeah, it's like a soul patch, and then there's a T under it, and then his hair is all... Ugh. I can't stand him. And his name is Paxton. Fuck you! Anyways.
And, yeah... I just don't see, like, I'm, looking down the roster. I mean, their defense is still mostly intact.
Well, that's where they lost a lot of people. They lost
mostly.
Danny Trevathan, they lost Malik Jackson, and they lost Brandon Marshall off the defense. So their linebackers are basically Von Miller now. Malik Jackson was like the best, and he went to Jacksonville for all that money we talked about last week. Malik Jackson was amazing. He's one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And obviously they lost Peyton, who on the field wasn't great. Brock was decent, but in the locker room and in like meetings and stuff, that's where the real value of a Peyton Manning makes a big difference. Like he's a true leader. And in most sports, I wouldn't say that's a big deal. Like basketball, I do not think it's that big of a deal. But football, it's a huge deal.
I mean, you're out there, slogging it out on and off.
Oh, not only that, just his
hours.
capabilities of film review. And I think Simeon's the only quarterback that was there last year that's there to this year. And that's not the guy that you want disseminating Peyton's virtues onto the new guys. Like if they had gotten Paxton Lynch last year or this year in Peyton State or whatever, and they won the Super Bowl this year, I'd feel much better about Paxton Lynch moving forward just because of the year of tutelage. But I don't think that's going to happen. Also, they lost guard Evan Mathis, who was decent, not great, but decent. But they did sign Russell Okung, which is definitely a good get. So,
well, what I was gonna say is their offensive firepower is severely limited by all these losses on the field. And they might drop 10, 15 points a game on average.
If that's the case, if they drop 10, 15 points a game, they're only going to be scoring 2 points this year.
It's a field goal. They scored just under 19 points a year last year. I wouldn't be surprised if they're right around the same amount of.
No, I said 2,
yeah,
10.
You mean drop like I'm going to drop 10 or 15 points on you? You don't mean fall 10 or 15 points in average. I see what you're saying. They were not a good offense last year. They couldn't run the ball for shit.
They survived entirely off of their defense. Now, as far as weapons are concerned, they still have great targets for whether it's Sanchez or whether it's Lynch who ends up starting. They've still got great targets to throw to. The question is, are they going to be an incredible field? I mean, that was the biggest thing last year, is they had unbelievable field position to start nearly every offensive possession that they had because their defense was out there killing people. This year, it doesn't matter whether you put out beat up old Mark Sanchez or whether you put Lynch out there. Man, that Chiefs front seven is going to be gunning for them. That San Diego front seven is going to come gunning after those guys. It's going to be brutal for whoever has to take snaps there in Denver.
It's going to be, it's going to be kind of a shit show.
Sacks.
Fantasy-wise speaking, I'm probably not terribly excited about picking a Denver Bronco unless they're on defense.
Including their wide receivers. I'm guys who have been.
They'll still be top 20 guys probably, but not both of them. Like there's.
Are you touching Sanders in the first 3 rounds? Let's ignore our league because I know we talk about our league. Well, we have keepers, this and that. Are you touching Sanders in the first 3 rounds in a normal league?
No, definitely not. And not even a PPR league. Let's assume all the leagues are PPR when we talk about this because that's really the only time you'd spend that kind of pick on a
wide receiver, on a skill position.
I don't know. I'd say they both be solid wide receiver 2s week to week, depending on matchups, but probably not ever both, and probably like they only averaged 222 total pass yards last year as a team. That's not good enough for these wide receiver weapons you have. Also, they're both getting older. I don't know, and I look at their fucking draft they had. I mean, Paxton Lynch, defensive tackle Adam Gotsis, who is decent, safety Justin Simmons, running back Devontae Booker in the 4th round. a guard, a fullback, another safety, and a punter. They didn't get any help, and they really didn't sign anybody. I mean, I'm looking at who they got this year, and their signings are limited to Russell Okung, Ronnie Hillman, and Von Miller. Two of those players were on the team last year, so they didn't really improve.
And they're in a tough position cap-wise now because they had to spend... I mean, they knew they were going to have to pay Von Miller. He's the highest-paid defensive player in the history of the NFL now, and, I mean, good for him, but I don't... Considering the guy fell off a year ago and in the first 6 weeks of this past season, you can't argue with paying him, but I think they definitely reached on him for sure.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It's very hard to throw to someone when you've got half a second in the pocket.
Now part of Kubiak's system is the rollout system where they get a little bit more time, maybe a half a second to a second. But yeah, it's not a lot.
That being said, that system is dependent on, and I spent a lot of time with Kubiak, or watching Kubiak at least. We still talk on, WhatsApp pretty regularly. He still bounces ideas off me all the time. Yeah. But the thing with Kubiak's system is it is so dependent, that zone running system is so dependent on having a running game, on having a running back who can go out there and get 85 plus yards a game, because if not, those rollouts don't mean shit. They really don't, because those rollouts are completely dependent on play action, and if you can't establish the run in his system, you're not going to be able to get that play action and those rollouts to work.
Now we say that, but I'm looking at the averages for Ronnie Hillman and CJ Anderson. Ronnie had 4.2 yards per carry, and Anderson had 4.7. Now, a lot of that happened later in the year. They ran out some big runs as they marched towards the playoffs. But and also, Thomas and Sanders are each over 1,100 yard receivers. But I just don't see that happening this year with the current quarterback play. Mark Sanchez going to be able to do that? Paxton Lynch? I don't feel like they're going to be able to sustain drives that much.
I don't know if Mark Sanchez survives the season if he starts all 16 games.
Plus, I don't think they have the same game sense. Peyton Manning lost his arm his last season, but he certainly knew where to look and how to maintain a field position. I don't know if these guys have the skill the man was just getting old, honestly. And I respect him massively as one of the greatest players of all time, but man,
you're before, but yeah, he won a Super Bowl, so I can't hate. I mean, I'm not excited about this team. I think probably the Chargers are in a worse position overall, but I wouldn't be surprised if Denver's number 4. I just think Denver still has a really great defense that they're going to stay in a lot of games, and the Chargers they're not good.
They do. Now, despite looking at last year's Super Bowl standing on my shoulder as I say this, in today's NFL, I'm always going to take, particularly in a season-long thing, not necessarily in one game, but I'm always going to take a better quarterback over a better defense in the NFL for long-term. So that's the only reason that I'm going to put the Chargers ahead of the Broncos right now.
Yeah, I agree with you, and honestly, assuming they split with the Raiders, they probably get beat twice by the Chiefs, and they could split to the Chargers. The Chargers are probably going to win more games than the Broncos. Just points against last year was ridiculous. Actually, the Chiefs had fewer points against, by the way, which is crazy, by 9 points. The team scored 9 fewer points against the Kansas City Chiefs, which is sneaky. That's super sneaky. And they also scored the most points in the division. I wouldn't be surprised. This is the Chiefs' year, I think. And I think the Raiders are probably going to come up next year. The Raiders are really good, but Carr is not as good as Cheeseburger right now. I like calling him Cheeseburger. Can we call him Cheeseburger from now on?
Oh, Cheeseburger Rivers is what I've been calling him for the last 3 or 4 years. Yeah, I mean, Cheeseburger Rivers, that's my thing. Here's the thing with the Chiefs. They are very dependent on, now, I say this despite, having Chandrick West stand over my shoulder. The Chiefs' offense is really entirely dependent on what happens with Jamal Charles, if he's going to be back or not. And if he's going to be back, he has not reported to training camp so far. That's to be expected. The guy's knee was, blown into a billion pieces, but he hasn't reported to training camp yet. He's not expected to be ready to go by week 1. Predictions have him anywhere from early October to early November as to when he's going to be back. So without him, because that offense, it runs through him. Let's face it, if you look at them, it
also
really
runs through
does run through what he does.
Jeremy Maclin and Travis Kelce are no slouch players. Like, let's be real. And Charkandrick West and Niall Davis do have some punch, although Niall Davis, for some reason, last year looked bad, but I think it was
West definitely came on at the end of the year and,
I totally agree with
was
you.
good for him.
But
Jamal Charles is the guy who has owned that offense for so long. So now their defense is still stellar. I'm not going to take anything away from Justin Houston and the rest of his boys, but really it runs through Jamal Charles, which, man, I was looking at Charles the other day. Now, granted, I mean, he competed in the Special Olympics because he's dyslexic. True story. He actually did.
Wait, who did?
Jamal Charles. He competed in the Special Olympics.
Did he got gold, right?
Yeah, and he set every world record in the 100-yard dash. Yes.
That's fucking bullshit. Oh man.
No, I'm kidding about that. But he spoke to the Special Olympics saying that, hey, he struggled with a learning disability. He gave a speech at the Special Olympics.
For some reason, I assume Jamal Charles isn't that bright of a guy. Is he a bright guy? For some reason, I put him and Marshawn Lynch into the same category for some reason.
Jamal Charles, I've heard stories told about him. I won't say who. Well, a guy named Nick Wright. Nick Wright was here in Houston for a number of years. He was in Kansas City before that, and now he's in L.A. He's told a story before about Jamal Charles. He took him out to dinner when the Chiefs first drafted him out of Texas. And he and, I don't know, another reporter took him out to dinner. And actually, yeah, Jamal Charles did compete in the Special Olympics when he was 10. Because he's dyslexic or something, which counts for the Special Olympics. Anyway, so they took Jamal Charles out to dinner, and they're at this fairly nice restaurant, and the waiter asked him what he wanted to drink, and he said, "Oh, just Foster water." And he said, I don't know if we have that brand. So he went back and he checked in the kitchen and didn't have it, and he came back. He goes, "You don't have Foster water? Just regular, ordinary Foster water." And that's when they figured it out. He's trying to say the word faucet. He can't pronounce faucet. He calls it Foster. So no, Jamal Charles is not a bright man.
I don't know if that's
said.
I don't know if that is an intellect thing necessarily, rather than where he grew up in the cultural dialect in the area.
Well,
but yeah,
maybe.
I hear you. I'm just saying it's not looking like he's going to Oxford anytime soon.
Right. He went to the University of Texas for a reason. That being said, what's incredible to look at Jamal Charles, if you look at him, he has never averaged under, in a single season, he has never averaged under 5.1 yards per carry.
What?
It's incredible.
That's crazy.
That is insane. He's never averaged under 5.1.
That's
this
crazy.
guy's a beast. He's an absolute monster. And I really think without him, I don't see the Chiefs winning a lot of games, because while Peyton Manning didn't play particularly well this past year, Dom did say it right. He said he made good decisions. He knew what to do, and he knew how to run the offense, even though he wasn't there physically. Alex Smith is not Peyton Manning. Out on the field, in his shoulder, or between the ears, he's not Peyton Manning. So I don't see Alex Smith being able to lead that team.
Yeah. I'd just like to point out, I'm looking at Jamal Charles' player profile right now. He is cross-eyed in his NFL player profile picture, which does not bode well.
But I mean, really, the team who we're all itching to talk about, though, is the. Sorry, go ahead.
No, shut up.
Cut this.
Now, I'm looking at it, and I hear you. But Jamal Charles only carried the ball 71 times last year. For 364 yards. They got Spencer Ware, Alex Smith was their second leading rusher, and then Charkandrick West, who wasn't a great between the tackles rusher. Looks like Spencer Ware was better. But I think they could piece it together, man. Now, granted, obviously, Charles just fantastic. I don't think there's any debate there, and having him helps. But I look at their receivers, and Maclin and Kelce are the guys, and then also Jamal Charles was fourth on the team with 21 receptions. So I mean, but Charkandrick West had 21 and way more yards. Most of that was due to one big ass play where he got 80 yards, but he didn't get into the end zone very much. This team's kind of stagnant anyways, right, regardless of who they have. So I agree with you. It would help to have that amazing playmaker on the team, but I don't necessarily think that takes a lot of wins. I think Jamal Charles is probably worth 1 to 2 wins maximum. But when I look at their team, as far as their transactions that they've made, they pretty much just got
They just treaded water.
Mitchell Schwartz. They re-signed a lot of guys, but they lost Sean Smith and obviously Chase Daniel, who I don't know if that's a big deal. And then Hussein Abdullah retired, and they lost Jeff Allen to your Houston Texans. It seems like they're just going to be kind of in the same place. And if they get Jamal Charles halfway through the year, I think they'll have a much stronger push than if they did at the beginning. Honestly, 11 wins is probably their ceiling again. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 9.
Which is optimistic in a division this good. Or in a division, as you put it, with this much parity. 11 wins is pretty impressive in this division.
They're an excellent team. I just think... I feel like they'll steal at least one game, probably 2 from the Chargers, and they could get 1 from the Broncos back. So that gives me 2 to 3 extra wins. Yeah, I don't know. The Oakland games are going to be really fun to watch, though, which is the next team we're talking about because they're good.
And before we leave them... Quick fantasy update for everybody out there, inside information. Regardless of who it is, whether it's West, whether it's going to be Niles Davis, whether Jamal Charles is going to make it back, if you're looking in a PPR league and you're looking for some running backs that are going to be able to produce some receptions, the Chiefs running back core is who you need to look at. With Captain Checkdown, Alex Smith, the guy creates fantasy gold for PPR league running backs. It's incredible.
He really does. And you kind of got to stay on top of who's starting week to week. Because it does change a lot in Andy Reid's system. So sometimes it's Spencer Ware, Jarkandrick West, or Niall Davis, or hopefully Jamal Charles. But I'm not taking him high up. I might take MacLeod because he proved that he can get it done in a Kansas City Chiefs uniform. But like I said, he was worse statistically than Sanders last year from the Broncos, who had nobody throwing to him. So he had 87 receptions, which is great. 1,088 yards and 8 touchdowns. All very good numbers. He's a wide receiver 2, though. Like, he's a true wide receiver 2. He's very consistent. But yeah, those are the only guys I'm touching. I'm Kelsey later, but I feel like tight ends eventually they just kind of fall off the map. So I don't know. Moving on to Oakland Raiders, though. I think this is the team that in the NFL. This is the team that you're most excited to watch develop because they're going to be good for years to come. And they're one of those classic teams. They're cool, probably getting out of Oakland soon. They had a really good draft where they got Shalik Calhoun out of Michigan State, who I think is a baller. I watched him play in the Big Ten. He's great. They got Connor Cook, whose dad is absolutely fucking crazy. Jihad Ward, Carl Joseph at safety. They had a really, really genuinely good draft. And on top of that, Carr is he's coming into his own, right? I feel like he's the most exciting quarterback right now. And I don't think they lost a single person to free agency.
Yeah, I think the Oakland Raiders are in a very good position to maybe lead the division. I don't know. It's in a developmental stage, but I think they got a Super Bowl in the next 4 years.
I think this year they're contending for the division championship. Now they addressed the O-line. They got Donald Penn again. They brought him back. And then they got out of Baltimore Kelechi Osemele for 5 years. So he's got and that guy can play all over the place on the line. So he's a good utility lineman that's just going to be strong in there. They also signed Bruce Irvin from Seattle, so now they have more linebacking help. They got Sean Smith from Kansas City, so now they have another corner, and they got Reggie Nelson from Cincinnati, who is going to help the secondary. They helped every facet of their team this year, including they added to like I said, in the draft, they added to the defense a lot, but they also got another quarterback you want a good, solid second-string quarterback because you never know. And they also got DeAndre Washington, who was a decent running back. I don't know where he's from, but I remember watching the combine and then thinking that, he'll be decent. At least in a small role. I think he could be a good scat back. But
I pose a challenge to anybody listening. Name a position where they got worse. Name an area where the Raiders are worse in 2016 than they were in 2015.
Exactly.
You can't do it.
I'm very surprised, too. And by the way, Latavius Murray, he might not be Jamal Charles or anything, but he is used a lot. He is a viable player on this team, not just fantasy-wise, real life. He kind of runs straight up and down a little bit for me. But he's genuinely good, and Derek Carr can get out there and run a little bit. He's not a running quarterback, but if he plays another game last year, he's got 4,000 yards. Well, yeah, he's only 13 short. So 32 touchdowns last year,
yeah.
32.
There's nothing standing in the way. Of this
I would
team
say
being pretty
12
great
wins
right
is probably
now,
their ceiling this
honestly.
year, which is great.
Which again is probably optimistic.
But 8 to 7 wins is their floor. They have, I think, the most breadth going right now. I think
They do.
I think they could easily fall apart at certain places. Like they're a young team, so you always kind of worry about that. But I mean, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, they really, it feels better. There's not a lot of weapons. It's pretty much Crabtree, Cooper, and Murray and Carr. Those are the four guys. But
now here's a question: when you look at the Raiders, and this has less to do with on the field, how much credit do you give to Jack Del Rio for this turnaround? I mean, virtually none is the correct answer, right? He walked into the best situation out of any. You know what he is? He is the anti-John Fox. John Fox leaves Denver, walks into the shithole that is Chicago. This guy leaves Denver, walks into the shithole that is also Oakland, but much better football.
Was last year his first year?
Last year was his first year, yeah.
So he didn't draft Derek Carr.
No.
Okay, yeah, he lucked into it then. It has nothing to do with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, and he's gonna go down as like one of the turnaround coaches of all time. But he had nothing. This team just kind of came into its own. Honestly,
he's definitely one of those guys that I don't think when they get to the playoffs they make a big push if they're close games until he's gone, because he's not out coaching anybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's not the guy. Now here's another question, and here's a question that I'm going to pose with Wacky Lou comment to go for it. That I did get into this conversation / argument / potential assault, whatever word you want to use, earlier in the week. You mentioned, Jake, and I think your wording is better than what I use, so I'm going to steal your phrasing. You said that the floor for them, they have the best breadth because their floor is only 7 or 8 games, whereas their ceiling is about 12 games. I would argue right now the floor for Derek Carr is better than Andrew Luck. Bad Derek Carr is better than bad Andrew Luck. Now, I don't know if good Derek Carr is better than good Andrew Luck. I don't think so, but I would definitely say his basement is higher than Andrew Luck.
You know what? The thing is, we haven't seen Carr's basement really, because rookie years don't really count. That's a developmental stage where they're learning the game. They're going to make mental errors. They don't know coverages. Their film study isn't great. They haven't been around the league enough to know players and tendencies and all that shit. But last year, he obviously improved greatly. Now, the 32 touchdowns is not all on him. Some of these, they're not super long plays. I think the longest was 68 yards from Amari Cooper last year. I'm looking right now. Yeah, it seems like the longest. Yeah. And
they sustained really long drives, yeah.
Right.
Thanks to Murray and Halou.
Right. Michael Crabtree is the one that I think was the biggest one because he's playing the number 2 wide receiver out wide and then also in the slot a little bit. He got 85 receptions last year. Amari Cooper only had 72. But Crabtree's kind of the chain mover guy that can get open, use his body. He's like an Anquan Bolden, only not quite as good. And I think that's what his legacy is going to be. Is he's going to be a really strong interior receiver for years to come, which is good, which is totally fine. And he's a really good red zone threat. He's a pretty tall dude. So, and Latavius Murray is just a good runner, although, again, like I said, he stands up straight when he runs. But they have
biggest thing he's got to overcome is he's got to hold on to that goddamn ball.
Right. The thing that really you want when you're a quarterback is, and not great wide receivers, not your offensive line, which are the first two probably, but you get the ball in really good spots, and they have a really good defense, and it's better this year. I am not surprised at all if their field position averages like their own 40. Like, it's really fucking good.
That's pretty aggressive, but
not like let's assume like punt returns and stuff, and not. Yeah,
you're factoring in the punt return. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, truly, I believe that Khalil Mack could be a Pro Bowler for the next 10 years if he wants to be.
He's really, really good, and the way they have that scheme set up, where they basically just say, "Hey, go get him," it really helps him. And they have some really interesting packages with him where he'll stunt around and stuff, and he's very athletic. And then he can go sideline to sideline. Obviously, I'm not surprised if maybe they bring it in a little bit, because they tried to do a lot of home run balls with Amari Cooper, which is kind of the Matthew Stafford effect when you have Calvin Johnson. I'm not kidding. Look for Matthew Stafford's completion numbers to be ridiculous this year with still his big arm, because they're not going to take shots all the time for no reason. They're not wasting downs 1 and 2. Same thing this year. If they stop doing that, Cooper's good for 100 catches. His catch rate will improve amazingly. He's got great hands. He can get open. Just make him run a post instead of a streak. Anyways, look for this team. It could easily be one of the best teams in the AFC, and it could definitely win this division.
And Latavius Murray is another one of those guys who's going to catch a lot of balls because Derek Carr, while he is good and he does have the arm, I'm not going to call him Captain Checkdown yet because he hasn't been doing it for a 12-year career the way Alex Smith does, but he does check down quite a bit, which is good. That's what you want to see. You don't want to see somebody have Matthew Stafford syndrome, as you put it.
Right. Well, that's
and so he checks down a lot. So look for Murray in your PPR leagues. He's a late second round snatch for sure.
He's definitely a viable running back one week to week, depending on matchups, of course. But he got 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns, which isn't a ton, but that's a lot of points. I also would think that Amari Cooper is going to take a step forward. I can't imagine that Crabtree gets more catches, but it's going to be close. Those two should compete, kind of like how you saw the Broncos receivers last 3 years kind of go back and forth with who's the best on the team. I think these two will definitely, especially in the end zone, because they're both big targets. So keep a lookout. Moving on to what I think is probably the last one, and we're gonna let Dom take kind of the reins for a little bit on the Chargers thing. But the Chargers are coming in, and they only won 4 games last year. It wasn't a lot. It was bad, but they lost Keenan Allen. But they go out and they get Joey Bosa, who's going to help him immediately. He's going to be really good. I would not be surprised if he's one of the best defensive ends in the league for years to come. They went out and got a tight end who you don't expect a lot of, but they got Max Turk, a center, which they need, and then they got some linebackers, and then other people that don't matter. But they only scored 16.5 points a year last year. I can't. But their problem really was rushing the ball. But I can't imagine that that's going to hold up. Do you see them improving in any way here, or are we just kind of stuck with it?
I see 1 or 2 more wins.
Yeah?
I see a very low floor and a slightly higher ceiling. They've got some defensive stopping power, so they might be able to challenge a little bit of, Derek Carr and the rest of the Raiders' insane
they
offense.
picked up Brandon Mabane, who's no slouch. And they also, they re-signed Patrick Robinson. They lost Eric Weddle, of course, which everyone kind of knew was going to happen. But they also signed Casey Hayward from Green Bay, who's a decent cover corner. So,
but I don't know if that's going to be enough because I don't think this team can score very many points, Jake. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah, they lost Ladarius Green again, which is bad. But Antonio Gates is signed again for 2 years. Old dude, man. Old dude. And then they did get Travis Benjamin, who actually I was looking up statistics for last year. He has, according to statistics, some of the best hands in the NFL. When it's a catchable ball, it seems like he catches it, which is crazy to think of considering all the great hands out there like Odell Beckham. But Travis Benjamin...
And considering the quarterbacks who would have been throwing the ball to him
exactly.
last year in Cleveland. That's pretty
awful.
hard to imagine.
But Travis Benjamin was ranked by SB Nation as the 15th overall best free agent. And they got him. So, and they got him for pretty cheap. 4 years, $24 million. That's not bad. $6 million a year. I'll take that.
But for a number 15, that ain't too bad.
But when I look at their team, Danny Woodhead's the only one I'm like, yeah. And then obviously Keenan Allen, but he keeps getting hurt.
Yeah, and you're right. Westbrook is PPR. He's another one that, you know what, this is the running back PPR gold division is what this is, because Woodhead, again, another guy who just went crazy last year, mainly because guys like Keenan Allen were hurt so much and because Rivers didn't have any downfield targets. Woodhead went off last year. He was their leading receiver, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, in receptions, yeah.
In receptions, that's what I mean.
And yards, I guess, but not yards per. He had 80 receptions, 755 yards, 6 touchdowns. He led in all those categories.
I agree entirely with Dom's analysis on these guys. They tread water. They're going to be mediocre this year. I don't expect to see anything from them. That being said, I not to take anything away from Joey Bosa, and of course he's been having an issue. He wants all $16 million of his contract, or he wants all of his money guaranteed up front, or a much larger portion than what the rookie deals will allow. So he's still holding out from camp. I still think they should have taken Tunsil, regardless of what came out, because
I agree.
Because the biggest the biggest thing you have on your team is Phillip Rivers. He is the only silver lining to your fucking team is that cheeseburger, and you can't keep the cheeseburger stacked. If the cheeseburger is crumbled, you can't eat it. Then it's just a messy pie. You can't hold a cheeseburger. A cheeseburger divided will not stand. And that's what they need right there. They need an offensive line. So I still think that not taking Tunsil was a bad idea. I think they should have traded back to number 5 or 6 and then picked him up.
I agree with you. Also, is Melvin Gordon garbage, or is it their offensive line?
He's got great hair. If you like black guy dreads, which I am a huge connoisseur of, that makes it sound like I own people.
He does live in Texas.
That's true. Which had no history of slavery, I think. But
Booyah,
actually, they fought for the right to keep their slaves against Mexico.
Against Mexico? I think that was more of a land. Who cares about the Mexican-American War? Anyways, Phillip Rivers is really your only guy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Keenan Allen is a stud, and let's be real. If he's healthy, you pick him. He's gonna be a good player in fantasy. I'm probably staying away from the running back because that line is garbage.
You know, I'm in a PPR league. I'm taking Woodhead in the 4th round, 5th round. Late fifth.
I can't see Cheeseburger holding up because, I mean, who are
2?
his guards? Like, Orlando Franklin and DJ Fluker. It's not going to end well. It's just not.
Adam Schefter doesn't know who those guys are.
Well, Fluker was like their first round pick last year or something?
Yeah.
No,
2 years ago.
Sure. He'll be fine, but yeah, they don't really have a lot of people.
I mean, they just don't have the stopping power to stop a lot of these like insane point scoring offenses that manifest within the West right now.
No,
so.
they can't touch the Raiders. They will not be able to slow down the Raiders.
No, I just don't see it happening at all.
Yeah, I'm looking at their.
I mean, Joey
players.
Bosa, maybe he stops like a field goal, but getting within field goal range. He's gonna get to the
quarterback. Melvin Ingram had 10.5 sacks last year. I mean, they have decent stuff happening out there, but nothing.
But against the
nothing
Raiders?
that you really care about. I mean, Patrick Robinson, Jason Verrett are your cornerbacks. Brandon Flowers, Corey legit.
It's amazing that the guy can have 10.5 sacks and we say, that's okay. It's amazing how skewed Justin Houston and J.J. Watt have made our opinions of sacks.
Yeah.
Because 3 years ago, 10.5 sacks, holy shit, that guy's a Pro Bowler. Now, well, I mean, hell, that's only half of what Houston and J.J. Watt did this past year. Fuck it, he's not very good.
10.5 on a team that was playing defense that much is not good.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You were on the field a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah, they didn't... I'm not a fan. Eric Weddle, you lose the heart of your defense. Of course, they pissed him off by not letting him go watch his daughter sing the national anthem or some shit. Manti
I think it was
Te'o...
pump, pass, and kick, wasn't it?
Something, I don't know.
His daughter was playing in pump, pass, and kick at halftime in a game that they were losing by like 40, so they didn't need a halftime pep talk, and he couldn't go out onto the field to watch her, I think.
Your number one tackler on the team is Manti Te'o, and he has an internet girlfriend that isn't real, so...
Was he really their number one tackler last year?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
That's really no foolies. That's really holy shit.
No foolies?
No foolies. Yeah.
Sounds like a Skechers brand of shoe. Foolies.
No, that was from that episode of that episode of South Park. Remember where it was like the Lord of the Flies episode where they worship the John Elway statue.
Just know
Every
that you're
adult
awful.
television show has had a Lord of the Flies episode that features children. Like The Simpsons.
A lot of kids shows have had a Lord of the Flies episode, actually.
I guess that's okay for the AFC. Obviously, we're not very excited about the Broncos or the Chargers. So, what are you calling it? Chiefs, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers in that order? Or really, do you really think, Lou, that the Chargers are going to be better than the Broncos?
I think the Chargers and the Broncos have the same ceiling, but I think that the Chargers' basement is much deeper. But that being said, I'm never going to count out a quality veteran quarterback in Phillip Rivers in Cheeseburger over an unproven guy or a proven Mark Sanchez. I'm never going to count that out. So does it really matter who comes in third or fourth? Does it really matter? I mean, really the question is, who do you see taking home the division? And it's going to be the Raiders. I've got the Raiders all the way in this division.
I really like the defense on both teams between the Chiefs and the Raiders. Carr will outplay him fantasy-wise, Alex Smith being him. think the Chiefs have more offensive weapons, at least better ones. But if Amari Cooper really emerges as what we think he's going to be, yeah, this could be a runaway show. I mean, it could be kind of scary to watch the Raiders, especially like they're that young. They could beat the Seahawks this year. They could be Russell Wilson year 2 Seahawks when they win the Super Bowl. We could be looking at that.
And they could sustain it for longer than the Seahawks did.
I think so.
They're going to be able to hold it together, I think, longer
well,
than
it
the
really
Seahawks
depends
did.
on how the young players react to this environment. Because, I mean, like you guys said, it's a very young team. And, either they rise to the occasion and are consistently good for years to come, or they flounder this year and maybe pick it up later. So it really depends.
It could be one of those things after they move, they relocate. It could be a little bit of growing pains and stuff. But
San Antonio, come on, Raiders. You know you want to do it. Move to San Antonio. The black and silver with the Spurs would be awesome.
You're garbage. Anyways, you just want a reason to be a Raiders fan and not be a bandwagon kid. Anyways, moving on to the NFC West, which I think is like the bottom team is awful. But I think the top 3 teams in this division are just as good as the AFC counterparts. I really think that these are some really good teams. Now, we're going to talk about the Arizona Cardinals first, who won the division last year. They look great still. Like, there's nothing that they did that I think makes them look worse. And they landed Robert Nkemdiche, who I think is one of the best defensive tackles, and also has really good hair. Did you see his squad at the draft when that happened?
I did. They looked like 2 Chainz, man. They looked like they came in. They rolled deep. They looked legit. Well, and if it wasn't for him having a freak out, didn't he smoke some synthetic marijuana and fell out of a hotel balcony or fell off of a hotel balcony or something?
Yeah, something.
Isn't that what made him completely fall off? I mean, he was easily one of the best steals of the draft. They made out like bandits for sure.
The offense is really tiring to just talk about. I mean, Carson Palmer, Larry Fitzgerald,
it's great. Yeah,
it's like it's so tiring to talk about how great this team is gonna be, because it's just got so many weapons on offense, and it's just got a solid defense that's gonna block points. I mean, they're definitely not worse off in defense. They were the 7th. They were top 7 in stopping points with only 19.6 points allowed per game. So, and I don't see any area on their defense where they've gotten worse. So I see a really good season out of this team.
I do too. And they got Evan Mathis. They still have Jermaine Gresham. Chris Johnson's coming back. Red Bryant. They got Donald Butler. They got Alan Ball, who is just a nickelback. Or no, they didn't. They got Mike Jenkins. Tyvon Branch is the big get, though. I think the safety, he helps them there a lot. But yeah, they had a really, really fantastic draft. I love every pick. Carson Palmer, what the fuck happened there? He turned it on last year. Now his completion percentage was not great, but they were not like, I say not great. The dude had a 63.7%, but it's not like Tom Brady up in there. But 35 touchdowns. Only 25 sacks is the big thing. They had a really good offensive line last year. Chris Johnson and David Johnson, Johnson. I mean, they really... Who thought Chris Johnson was coming back and doing well?
CK3, man.
Yeah.
Nobody saw that coming.
I mean, he blew up his knee a little bit.
Speaking of which, you brought up David Johnson. Everybody... What did I miss? What happened? I mean, David Johnson is on everybody's big board. He's ranked on everybody's big board in the top 10 for fantasy this year for PPR leagues. What the hell did this guy do in the last... I mean, yeah, okay, so he averaged 4.2 yards a carry over the course of 4 games.
He had 1,000 all-purpose yards and 12 touchdowns. It's the touchdowns that it's... Because he scored 8 on the ground. He was a big play guy for a little bit.
He's just a guy that can get through the line into the end zone.
He's got really good hands. I don't know about top 10 overall pick, but he's certainly a top 10 running back.
He's a top sure, he's a top 10 running back. He's a top 25, top 30 pick, but everybody's got him in their top 10.
There's probably standard leagues where running backs...
No, it's PPR leagues. PPR leagues, he's in the top 10. Standard leagues, he's in the top 15. But regardless, I am just flummoxed by this.
Well, Chris Johnson's probably losing a step. They're probably going to hand the ball off to David Johnson anyway now. I think he's their number one back. Andre Ellington has too many injuries to keep up. You don't really have more guys that you really want to give the ball to. Like, everyone's aging, so you're going to want to try to use your aging guys as spells. Like, you want to use them as backup. And I don't know. I would not be surprised if David Johnson... he averaged 4.6 yards a carry last year. That was fine. He has a nose for the end zone, though, and he's a big dude. He's like 6'2", almost 230.
I mean, he's an ideal red zone player. He really is.
Right. So what you're looking at here is really, it's not his yardage necessarily, it's his touchdowns. And I would not be surprised if he either maintains or drops off a little bit. I don't see much more this year, at least, because there's such a vertical offense with John Brown and Michael Floyd and Larry Fitzgerald. It seems like they're still going to pass a shit ton. Granted, he'll be involved in it, but 36 catches last year is not an elite ball catching back.
Right, and he's not a check down guy because you've got Smokey Brown, you've got Fitzgerald, and you've got Michael Floyd. You've got guys who can get
right.
open,
So
and a quarterback who can find them.
I would say if he starts all 16 games, look for 50 catches, between 500 and 600 yards in the air, and I would say. Probably 800 yards on the ground is probably a ceiling right now, just based on the usage I'm seeing from other players. Because they like to spread it around a little bit. They like to spell and keep guys fresh. Bruce Arians is a really fantastic coach, and I don't think he's leaning on one guy too heavy. That said, David Johnson's going to win you some fucking fantasy games, and he's going to win you real football games too. So, yeah, this entire offense... from options 1 through 4 on offense are viable fantasy players, including Carson Palmer. In fact,
Carson Palmer may end up being one of my keepers in our league.
He might be the MVP this year if he can get to 40 touchdowns. That's 5 more. That's only 5 more. And that's another year for David Johnson to be in the offense. Larry Fitzgerald this is his second year at the slot, where he. By the way, he put up career numbers. I'm not surprised if they do even better. Now, they don't go to the tight end very often, so stay away from the tight ends. But other than that, like their defense is fantastic. Last year, though, Dwight Freeney was their leading sacker, which is like 8. And he was old as fuck. Now, Tyrann Mathieu, though, is coming off of a blown ACL, or is it a PCL? It was his knee. It was his right knee. But... yeah,
We're not a medical show, folks.
Patrick Peterson's still there. Justin Bethel, Deion Buchanan, stuff like that. Gerard Powers, really good secondary, and they probably got that safety to cover up for Tyrann in the beginning of the year in the draft. So they're going to be back. This is a team to beat, honestly. Like they might be the Super Bowl favorites. I'm not kidding.
I legitimately see this team. This team could win. This team could win 12 games.
This team could win 14 to 15 games. Like last year, they're losing games they gave away. Like they shouldn't have lost against the Rams.
No.
You know what I mean? Like they're a few decisions away from maybe winning 15 games last season and being just as good as the Panthers, who end up trouncing them in the playoffs. But yeah, count on this team for everything. Like I'm bet on this team. Join the bandwagon. Get a shirt. Get a Carson Palmer tattoo on your ass. I could not love the Arizona Cardinals more than this year. I think they're better than last year.
I'd be inclined
I need to get another one on my ass.
Yeah. Dom, how do you feel about the Arizona Cardinals? Did they sexify you?
I mean,
did they titillate you?
I am completely turned on. Just reading the names of this offense gets me going, I gotta say.
Cool. Can we even talk about your boner legally?
Probably.
Okay, your alleged boner. If you were legal, that's what we're talking about. Not your current day boner.
Everybody's legal in Singapore. It's Singapore somewhere.
You folks at home can't see this, but they're both getting really creepily close to their cameras.
Yeah, we are. And our mics.
Oh.
Anyways, so we can move on
to Jake's favorite team.
Motherfucker. We could move on to every Oklahoma City Thunder's favorite team. Every Oklahoma City Thunder fan's favorite team. It's the Seattle Seahawks. With just the worst fucking person at quarterback. Now, he's a great player, but the person of Russell Wilson, I cannot stand his face or his mannerisms or the way he is or will be or the way he wears clothes or speaks or is able to breathe. I don't like any of that. Now, looking at their draft and their team composition and he who shall not be named, I think they did a really good job in the draft. I really love Jerron Reed. I really love Jermaine Ifedi, the guard they picked up, who they definitely needed. They also got CJ Prosise, who is a good receiving back. They got a tight end that they need now. They got another guard. They got another defensive tackle. They got more stuff. I mean, they really just kind of padded themselves and prepared for years to come. And that's how you should draft. You should not be drafting for this year. You should be drafting for the year after. And that's what I see when I look at this team. It's now obviously they lost Beast Mode, who will be a big loss, but I really think Thomas Rawls, who was the leading rusher on the team last year, I think he's got what it takes. I mean, we've got 2 years with him right now. And you said Jamal Charles' worst year was 5.1 yards per carry. Thomas Rawls is at 5.6 right now.
Smaller sample size, granted.
Of course, yeah.
But he definitely has something to be special. The way everybody has a boner for David Johnson in Arizona is how I feel about Rawls right now. I am amped about Rawls, and I've got Rawls going. If you've already got a running back, if you've already got an RB1 set up that you're keeping in your league, I don't see a problem with him. And you've already got a wide receiver one that you're keeping also. I don't see a problem with taking Rawls in the first round.
Those are some bold words. Those are very bold words, but I can't really find a reason to disagree with you on that, Lou.
Yeah, I mean, he's fantastic. I would not be surprised if he's one of the best fantasy players and just overall players in the league next year. Now, he doesn't catch a ton of passes, which is really where it falls off in any PPR league, especially ours. He only caught 9 balls, but they were for 76 yards and a touchdown.
No, but he's going to carry the ball 25 times a game. You know, they do that traditional ground.
I would not. He should be over 1,200 yards this year on the ground. Now, his touchdown numbers are abysmal. He only had 4 last year. That's not RB1 numbers. However, and Marshawn Lynch, by the way, only took 3. They had the best rushing offense last year, I believe. Yeah, it was number 1 at 127 yards per game or something like that. Russell Wilson is the reason for that, obviously. But he only got 1 touchdown. Like, they don't score on the ground a lot in the red zone.
No, they send it to Jermaine Kearse.
Jermaine Kearse, yeah.
Jermaine Kearse. Excuse me. Javon Kearse was the beast in
Javon Kearse, yeah, and played in Philly a little bit. Yeah, Jimmy Graham, by the way, should play a lot better this year. I think I would be surprised if they didn't have 2 70-catch receivers this year in Doug Baldwin and Jimmy Graham. Now, but Doug Baldwin is another one of those guys who got into the end zone a lot, 14 times last year. Way overinflated on draft boards, I'm seeing. Way overinflated. I mean, he had 1,069 yards, 13.7 yards per reception. I mean, that's good. That's not great.
Doug Baldwin, for me, I couldn't figure him out last year. I picked him up and dropped him 3 times last year because the guy would go out there and he'd have 2 games where he had 10 catches apiece and have a touchdown in one, 2 in the other, and then he'd go 3 weeks without catching 1 ball. You know, the guy was ridiculous. He is the biggest up and down guy that you'll ever find. I mean, that game remember that incredible shootout? It kind of gets forgotten last year because we had that amazing Saints and Giants shootout. But if you remember the Steelers and Seahawks game last year, that was just stupid. I think he had 3 touchdowns in that game and something like 205 yards or something just ridiculous.
Baldwin is capable of it, but I don't think Russell Wilson is the guy that you want slinging the ball around that much. Now, I say that, his numbers look crazy. He's got 68.1% completion, 4,000 yards, 34 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. But he's got 45 sacks, and he runs into sacks all the time, kills, drives, and that's why on the ground they don't have a lot of like rushing attempts because they're in the back of the red zone when they get to that point. They're not in the front of the red zone pounding it in at the 1. They're always at the 20 or the 15 and then making a big play into a corner fade route or something.
Yeah. You know, the thing about Russell Wilson is you can't always trust the statistics on this one because they will sort of pad his reputation, but on the field, he makes mistakes. He makes a lot of mistakes. He runs way out of the coverage area of his guards, and
way out.
Yeah, he pays for it in blood.
I would not be surprised if he ends up getting injured this year. He's gotten hit so many times, and like 15 to 20 of those sacks are on him.
Yeah, I'd say maybe more, like 25 even.
Yeah, it could be.
He may get injured, but I guarantee you it won't be a concussion because those nanobubbles keep him from getting concussions.
They layer his membranes of his brain. By the way, in free agency, they lost pretty much. That's it. They kept Jermaine Kearse, but they lost Mabane at defensive tackle. They lost Sean Smith. They lost Bruce Irvin, and they lost Russell Okung. 3 of their best defensive players are gone, and their best offensive lineman is gone, and they re-signed their 4th. Actually, he's not their 4th best. Let's see where Jermaine. He's their 3rd best receiver last year. That's what they did last year. Great job, guys. And they lost. I'm not saying that they're bad because they're not bad, but they're not the Arizona Cardinals. 10 wins is their ceiling again. 10 wins is what they got to look forward to.
I think that's fair.
Man,
also fuck you, Russell Wilson.
Yeah, but I would not be surprised if the Rams start catching up to them.
Now the Rams, that's the one for me. You know what? They're my New York Jets of this division. I have no fucking clue what these guys are going to do. These guys could go out with bringing in Jared Goff. These guys could go out there and win 4 games. They could go out and win 12. I have no idea what the Rams are going to do. I really don't. I'm really baffled by the Rams. Maybe I don't buy into this kind of shit, but maybe they're re-energized about being in a new city. I just can't tell you what these guys are going to do. Jake, what do you think that the Rams are going to do this year?
They're going to be better at quarterback, that's for sure. I mean, there's no way. Do you know how many? Give me a guess. Their best. You're not looking at stats, are you? Are you looking at stats right now?
I know all of the stats. I don't need to look.
Of course. Who was their top receiver last year?
I mean, naturally, I want to say Tavon Austin, but I don't know, probably Todd Gurley?
No, it was Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin, how many receptions did he have then? He led the team.
I would say between 60 and 75?
You'd think so. 52.
What?
Wow, really?
Led the team in receptions 52. The number one receiver as far as yards was concerned, who do you think that was? Because it wasn't Tavon Austin, who I am surprised about.
Did Isaac Bruce suit up for a couple of games, maybe? Did Torrey Holt come back on the field?
Kenny Britt, who was their 3rd most receptions at
Kenny Britt,
36. 36 receptions, 18.9 yards per reception, by the way.
And he didn't even play the entire season, did he?
681 yards. No, he didn't.
Because wasn't he serving a suspension from Tennessee at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, he was.
What the fuck is this team?
This team is a ground and pound team with Todd Gurley, and he's the only reason they won games last year. Now, by the way, Todd Gurley only played on like 9.1% of plays on 3rd downs with 8 yards or more on there. So he's not like a traditional third down back. I think they bring Benny Cunningham in for that kind of shit. But Todd Gurley, even with that stat, had 21 catches for 188 yards, which gives him the 6th best receptions on the team. I think he's good for probably 40 next year, and let's call it double that. Let's make it 400 total yards out of the backfield. And if he plays a whole season, he's good for 1,500 yards or more. This guy could be the best rusher in the league. Easy.
They're going to be. I agree with what he could do with receptions because they're going to be slinging the ball more with Goff. They're going to open it up a little bit because last year. That's not a reflection on Tavon Austin.
Austin had a lot of yards on the ground. He had 434 yards on the ground, by the way.
Let's consider who they had playing quarterback. They had Nick Foles and the now, I believe, deceased Case Keenum after he took that shot and then kept playing in the game. Those were your quarterbacks last year.
By the way, Sean Mannion and Johnny Hecker each had 7 and 4 attempts, respectively. So,
truth be told, I don't know who those people are.
Neither do I. Nick Foles, it was garbage last year. Case Keenum was he was slightly better smelling garbage last year. But yeah, Jared Goff is clearly an improvement, no matter what. Screw all the stuff where you say he's got to sit for a year. This is the one case in a long time where I'm like, no, fucking start the guy. You can't not. He's better than anything you've got on the field. They were in the worst position here. Now, I will say, Todd Gurley is going to get 250-plus rushing touches. Easy. I wouldn't be surprised if it's closer to like DeMarco Murray levels a few years ago with 300.
Yeah.
Now, he'll probably catch 40 balls as well. Todd Gurley's tread on his tires is going to be worn thin quick.
Either he's going to get Arian Foster syndrome, for sure. He's going to be run into the ground.
Adrian Peterson, I think, is very similar to Todd Gurley in every aspect. And they stacked the box last year against Todd Gurley, rookie running back, and he's eating them alive on these one-cut zone reads. And these, but by the way, they change up their run coverage and run blocking. They change it up play to play, so you don't know if you're getting a zone look or if you're a man up or you're pulling guards or tackles or centers even. They have a really sophisticated running offense. Now, say what you will about Fisher's mustache, who is obviously the coach of the team. Fisher's just a vessel for the mustache, which has all of the football knowledge in it. But it's
a Master Blaster situation.
It's a Master Blaster situation, much like Drew.
Who run barbershop?
But no, they have a crazy sophisticated run game. If you watch film, it's mind blowing how much the looks will. It'll look like the same plays they ran the play before, and then they'll go the opposite way. You have to react at the last possible second, so it takes a really good defense to shut them down. And the only one that really did it last year super effectively was the Cardinals the second time they played them, because the Cardinals got eaten alive the first time. So yeah,
that was Carson Palmer throwing the game away on that too. That was Palmer playing like garbage that game.
Right, sure, but they still got gouged on the
being in there.
They still got gouged on the ground. And by the way, they still have a really good defense. They have probably the best young core of defensive players in the league right now. Aaron Donald being defensive tackle, getting 11 sacks. Oh yeah, yes please. They still have Mark Barron, who is they're kind of. He's both a linebacker and a safety and a nickelback. He plays all over the field. But you also have Janoris Jenkins, who flies under the radar, who could be one of the best corners in the league this year. Watch for Janoris Jenkins. I don't know about fantasy-wise if you play defensive teams, because, if it's a true shutdown corner, he's not getting a lot of stats. Alec Ogletree, though, is really good. They lost Nick Fairley, but Akeem Ayers is also really good. They have a really, really good team. Robert Quinn cannot be forgotten as well. Did he get hurt last year? His numbers seem really low.
I don't know. I still think Laurinaitis was a good part of this team, and I'm disappointed to see him go.
Yeah, he only played. Robert Quinn only played 8 games last season, so he played half a season. But yeah, if he's healthy, best defensive line in the league, probably, I'd say.
Oh no, best front seven for sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
so
no doubt
the
about
fact
that.
they're a really strong defensive team. They upgraded at quarterback, which is the most important position in the NFL. And Todd Gurley is in year 2. The man has wheels. He's so fast. He's strong. He doesn't go down after first contact. He's a big play threat whenever he is. He only fumbled 3 times in his rookie season. That's insane. You don't just fumble.
Actually.
You never only fumble 3 times in your rookie season. And he played in 13 games. It wasn't like he only played 10 games. He had plenty of time. He only lost one of those, by the way. He's a really good player. Obviously, I have him in our league, but he should be on your radar for number 1 pick overall. That and Antonio Brown.
Now, this is the part where we move on to the
Julio Jones, please.
He's third.
This is the part where we move on to the team everyone's been waiting for us to talk about.
They have the San Francisco 49ers. Do we have a lot of gay fans? I don't. I wasn't aware. I couldn't be less of a fan of this team. Cap. Basically, we have to talk about Kaepernick first.
Do we have to?
Is he viable?
Do we have to?
Is he viable? I don't like Blaine Gabbert. Is he really better than Colin Kaepernick? Now, by the way, we have that one guy. I think he still coaches at Oregon. Did they end up drafting Marcus Mariota into San Francisco? Did they redraft just to get him, or any of the other Oregon players? Because that's usually how it works with this guy. We're just going to call him the Duck. So they have the coach from Oregon.
Are you trying to make a joke about Chip Kelly, or did
Chip
you forget
Kelly
his
is
name?
still an Oregon coach. There's no possible way. They're going to run the read option a shit ton this year, and I don't think Blaine Gabbert can do that.
That was a convoluted joke. I still don't get the punchline.
It's not the punchline is just that he's just always Oregon-y, and everyone every year during drafts are like, he's going to go out and get every Oregon player. No, he never has, and he just doesn't do it. But anyway, he's just really bad at trades. But their draft was pretty good. They had 2 first-round picks. They got defensive end DeForest Buckner, I think everyone liked. They had Joshua Garnett at guard, Will Redmond at cornerback. They had 2 cornerbacks, actually. Then they got a lot of defensive and offensive linemen. Oh, and Jeff Driscoll, the quarterback, who hails from Louisiana Tech. You all knew that, right?
No.
Yeah. So they were awful last year. I think they scored the fewest points per game last year with 14.8.
5-11.
Not a good team. I don't know how they won 5 games.
Neither do
They
I.
should have won 2 games. They came out the first game of the year last
They
year,
looked
and
great against the Vikings that first game.
the Vikings had
we
a
all
really
thought
good
Trent
defense.
Dilfer was going to go propose to Kaepernick on the field.
Carlos
God damn.
Carlos Hyde had a third of his rushing yards last year in the first game.
So
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, and Reggie Bush, did Reggie Bush even make it out of the first game? Didn't he get
No,
hurt? Didn't
he had 8 rushes for 28 yards. I think he got hurt. But yeah.
No, he did get hurt, but was it I think it was in the first game, wasn't it?
By the way, Blaine Gabbert and Colin Kaepernick have basically the same stats. It's not good. They got sacked a fuck ton. They got sacked over 50 times between the 2 of them.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was not good.
Those are David Carr numbers.
The thing is, their interceptions, how many total interceptions do you think they threw last year?
Well, shit. I mean, they were 3rd and out 12 times a game, so I can't imagine that many. I mean, between the 2, maybe 15?
12. It seems
Okay,
worse,
yeah.
though, when you look at it, though, right? You're like, Kaepernick was garbage last year, and Blaine Gabbert's terrible. But
I'm sure they led the NFL in 3 and outs, though.
Oh, probably. They had nothing going on. By the way, they lost their best receiver to the Lions, who I'm really excited about,
And Quan Bolden, yeah.
Yeah.
Did he lead that? He did. He led the team in receptions, didn't he?
69 from the slot. 69 receptions, 789 yards, 4 touchdowns.
So, okay, hold on. For comparison, guys, 69 receptions from the slot. For comparison, Larry Fitzgerald had 109 from the slot.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That is garbage.
It was not a good year for them. I'm trying to find their best defensive player, Navarro Bowman.
It'd probably be Navarro Bowman, right?
Yeah, he's the only one. He had 154 fucking tackles last year. He's a beast.
Holy God.
Well,
Did anyone else play?
He had to. The next closest guy had 85. Michael Wilholt, and then you just kind of moved down. Their best pass rusher, Aaron Lynch, and
I was going to say probably Alden Smith
and Ahmad
for the
Brooks.
few games that he played.
Alden Smith didn't play, did he?
He played for the first 6 weeks, or for the first 4 weeks. How many weeks did he play last year before he got into the whole gun incident?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't think his stats are on here. I can't see him. But yeah, not good. So yeah, they don't have a good team. It's just not good. They didn't get anyone in free agency who wants to go there anyway. They did have a good draft. I will say that. Like I said, I liked their draft composition, but that's, again, you draft for next year, not this year. I don't see how this team, if Kaepernick doesn't improve greatly, because once you can run the ball, you can at least do other things. But Torrey Smith's your best pass catcher.
I mean, what this was trying to fill the Grand Canyon with a garden hose. Was this draft this year? I mean,
Absolutely.
They did everything right, but in the grand scheme of things, they're just so poor right now that I don't think it's going to bring up. Maybe they win. Maybe they stay at 5-11 is the best case scenario for them right now.
No, the best case scenario is that Kaepernick just gets cooler tattoos. That's the literal ceiling for them is just Kaepernick looks cooler.
Maybe something to cover up
No
his
wins.
massive jowls. Because
No wins.
Are we talking like full leg sleeve here? What
I
are
don't
we gonna
know.
do?
I don't know.
What do you do to make him look cooler?
A tattoo of his face on his face.
I mean, no, that's
Oh,
twice
dude, that's
the
fucking
paid.
Inception right there.
That's-
That's meta as fuck, dude.
Do you know what Colin Kaepernick's face looks like? It looks like, you see like those pictures of someone like stretching out like a celebrity's face. That's what he is by default.
I thought he was like a good-looking dude. Am I
No,
He's
forgetting?
an insanely good-looking dude. You have terrible taste in men, Dom.
His profile picture on NFL.com begs to differ.
Colin Kaepernick. I don't know if he's a good-looking dude or not. I can't
He's
tell.
gorgeous.
He's
got-
a biracial angel, that's for sure.
He's
But I
got
don't know.
these-
He is racially ambiguous.
He's got these arcing jowls.
He looks like one of those memes where you see that really good looking Arab dude in full garb, and it's like I wouldn't bomb you, baby, or something like that. He looks, I think he's good looking. He's a douchebag though. Huge douchebag.
Speaking of memes, with the 49ers where they are today, every time I see, you know that one meme where it's the little girl, there's that house that's on fire, and she's got that kind of like devilish smile on. She's like,
I sure do.
Tell me I can't have cupcakes for breakfast again, or whatever. Every time I see Jim Harbaugh, I think of that meme, and I think of that little girl, and instead of it being a house on fire, it's Levi Stadium. Because, man, Michigan, I'm just telling you, you might win 10 wins this year. You might get 10 wins this year, Michigan, but don't piss the guy off. I'll leave it at that.
I think he's autistic, and that's not a joke. I genuinely think he's autistic. Is Carlos Hyde actually good? I can't tell because their team was so fucking bad last year, and he got hurt. Like, he was the only one that did anything on the ground. Kaepernick obviously did okay, but like, eh.
You know, that was the same question I was going to ask. I don't know if he's fantasy feasible. I mean, I certainly didn't think with Frank Gore leaving, I thought their running game was going to fall apart. And then we see week 1 last year against the Vikings, you know, he came out and he was excellent. Didn't they have, I know he's already quit the NFL, didn't they have some rugby player who came to be a running back or a punt returner for him or some shit like that?
On Twitter, people were like, you know how rugby players are...
they don't wear pads, so they're tougher.
Yeah. Oh, rugby is... The best rugby player would be better than the NFL player. Motherfucker, have you seen NFL players? They stop every 40 seconds and wait. It's like, yeah, they play really hard. Have you ever tried to push another human being? Just push them. Now, have you ever tried to push them while they're trying to push you for hours? It's exhausting.
And these aren't human beings that you're trying to push. These are gods out there on the field.
But last year, what the 49ers went through is they lost every fucking player to early retirement suddenly. And they're just like, you know what? Fuck 49ers. I'm not doing it. So they lost Patrick Willis and a whole bunch of other people because they're worried. And so their defense gets gutted. Now they can't stay off the field. And they got rolled. Like the first game they came out and you're like, okay, this is going to be all right. And then it fell apart, man. It just fell apart. Now that
they because they play in Levi Stadium, is it fair to say that the team came apart at the seams?
I fucking hate you. No, I hate you and you should die.
That was awesome. You're welcome.
Distract from Lou's horrible pun.
Internet.
I was just gonna make a quick mention about rugby and football. The hit dynamic is completely different between the two sports. Rugby has a lot more drag downs, a lot more short distance hits than football, which has a lot of, you know.
So you're saying it's gayer. That's fine. Moving on.
No, I'm just saying there's a lot of false equivalency, like rugby fans. Oh, football's so much, it's for pansies. It's a completely different dynamic of contact, and it necessitates pads. It really does.
The standings at the end. I gotta go same as last year, right? Arizona Cardinals between, I don't know, they could win 15, but they'll probably get closer to 13 or 12. Seattle's ceiling is probably 11. Their floor is probably just under the St. Louis Rams ceiling, which is probably 10, maybe 9. And then the San Francisco 49ers are just going to be a fucking garbage fire. It's going to be bad.
I agree with all of that. I'm just a little less optimistic. I mean, the Seahawks could win... The Seahawks, I see their basement as 8 games, but here's another question that we didn't ask about the AFC West, but that we should ask about both the NFC and AFC West. Do you, considering, and I know this is more of a big scale question, so take a second and think about it, do you see a wild card team coming out of the NFC or AFC West? I do not. I do not see a wild card team coming out of either division, because the NFC North, I think, is going to take those.
Well, I mean, Seattle and Kansas City both won their wild cards last year.
Right. I'm saying this year, do you see a wild card? Do you see a wild card team coming out? Because I will put it this way: I would put money on the NFC North having at least one, and I would put money on the NFC North having one, and I would put money on the and the NFC South having one.
The Packers had one, and the NFC South.
Oh yeah, the you never know what the Saints are going to do. The Saints could go out there and win 11 games.
I see what you're saying. If I have to, I'm putting my money on Seattle to get a wild card. More than I'm putting it on another team besides the Packers, Vikings, or Lions.
What about in the AFC West?
Kansas City's probably going to run away with that. The Raiders could snag a wild card. I mean, the Steelers got the other one last year, and Ben went down, but New York won 10 games.
I see the AFC West a whole lot more likely to have a wild card out of it than the NFC West.
I couldn't imagine the AFC West coming out with only one playoff team.
I can't either.
Yeah. The NFC West, I could see it happen because the Seattle Seahawks could shit the bed because they just don't have a lot of shit going. They don't have a lot of weapons. Their defense is going to be good again. It's going to be fine. But I think people have figured out Russell Wilson. Like, you just kind of got to make him pass the ball.
Yeah.
And, if you pressure him because he can't see over the fucking offensive line, he's got to roll out. If you get a good edge press on him, it's fine. So, not fine. He's still fucking dynamic. But he won't fuck you. Just like he wouldn't fuck Sierra until they got married.
I was about to say, until he puts a ring on it.
Oh, there you go. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd say, yeah, it's you're looking at a possible dumpster fire NFC West. But the Arizona Cardinals are they're up there to win the Super Bowl. And that's not even close to a joke. I think I liked them more than the Panthers last season. But after I saw the Panthers win, I was like, there's no way they lose to the Broncos. And then, of course, they got shellacked. So, yeah, you can't really ever tell. But they're the two top teams in the NFC, that's for sure. Easy. But, yeah, so I guess we can move on from the Russell I hate to the Russell all Lou hates. And that'd be Westbrook. So, Russell Westbrook, obviously, Kevin Durant leaves. The bromance is broken up. And it's sad. So, do you think it was a good decision? Because what was the contract that Westbrook got? It was like 2 years guaranteed.
What it is he signed a 3-year. He signed an extended LeBron deal, if you will. Yeah, it's a 3-year deal with that after the second year player option. So in 2 years he's gone if he wants to be. He can opt out of the deal. He's now a max paid player, so he's gone from 18 million up to 26 and 26 and change, whatever it may be.
Sure.
So he definitely improved his stock. I think the most shocking thing about this is nobody saw this coming. We were all talking about, do you end up trading the guy if you can't, by the trade deadline, if you can't find anybody, you've got to trade him, right? You've got to be working on this. And this shocked everybody. This came out of left field. I think it's great for both him and the team because it's going to allow, basically what he's telling the Thunder is this. All right, look, Thunder, I'm putting this on you. You have 2 years to go find another superstar to play with me, and you're going to have plenty to choose from over the course of the next 2 years, the way free agency shakes out. You've got 2 years. You've got 2 off seasons to go get somebody here to play with me and Cantor and Steven Adams. Go do it.
Oladipo's no slouch, by the way.
Oladipo's
a genuinely good pickup. But yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I think he wanted to stay because he didn't want to be Durant. I don't know what their conversations were like. I was going to watch...
Apparently, he and Billy Donovan didn't speak about it once. They've never talked about his contract, is what Donovan came out and said today.
Huh. Weird. Basically, yeah, I feel like he wants to give them a chance. Also, I think he wants to be the guy. I would not be surprised if Russell Westbrook comes out and fucking dominates and wins the MVP next year. It would not surprise me in the least. He's one of the most dominant players in basketball. He's a goddamn bulldog and a bloodhound. He runs all over the floor. He plays ferociously. Now he's not the most sound defensively, but he'll get the ball. He makes assists. Now again, Durant's not there to drop in really great threes or mid-range shots as much. But Oladipo is a genuinely good scorer. Cantor is definitely a good pickup. I like the idea that Ibaka's out of there because he was taking up room in the offense. He was just kind of a dead ball situation. I really like Steven Adams, obviously, who I think is expanding offensively.
Love the guy.
And
is a defensive presence in the paint. So
no, they're going to lose more games than they did this year because Durant's gone. I mean, he was the MVP 2 years ago. You can't replace that guy. But Westbrook he's going to be fucking ridiculous. If you play fantasy basketball, get Russell Westbrook.
I'll add a point onto what you said there. I don't know if Russ wins the MVP, but I'll put it this way: if the Thunder have any chance of making the playoffs this year, he will have to be the MVP.
He could average a triple-double. Easy.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he will have to do that for them to be able to win. I mean, what are you going to have to win? You're going to have to win 46 games in the West?
To get into the playoffs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, 52.
52 to get the
52?
8th spot? Nah, you could win. In the 40s.
I'm saying that's what I'm saying. 46.
I think they have it. They're not talentless. They have a lot of good talent. So
no, they're not talentless at all. But for them to be able to do that, for them to be able to make the 6th seed or better, he's going to have to be the MVP of the league for sure. Everything is going to run through him.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. How do you are you looking at this like positively, or did you like the deal?
Well, I think it's honestly it's the best deal the team could have asked for.
Yeah, for sure.
Realistically, they got to get their act together real soon, though. But the thing is, there are so many LeBron deals floating around out there now that I think they will be able to get a second superstar. And I think Russell Westbrook is making a decision consciously for not only his future, but for the future of the team. And I think it could work out.
I agree. You said it right, though, Dom. It's on them. He has bellied up to the bar. Now it's your turn, Thunder. Go out and get me my superstar.
Bellied up to the bar. That's an alcoholic jargon right there. So there's not really. Well, how do you only have to belly up to the bar if you're like, come here, bartender.
Okay, he put up his he went up to bat.
He put up his hand out there. There's no idioms that make sense here. He just did a good
You're
job.
an idiom.
That's how dare you, sir. So I have a question for you guys before we head out for the day. And the question is, because the Olympics are happening right now, and the Olympics, whether you like them or hate them, it's a spectacle. I think anyone that enjoys sports can sometimes turn them on, flip back and forth, and kind of enjoy the show. Now, I prefer the Winter Olympics because curling's my shit. But right now, men's basketball is happening, and the question is this: should professional athletes be allowed to play in the Olympics? Because this is a fucking shit show. We have destroyed them since 1992 with the Dream Team. It's just... We had one year where I think Spain ended up beating us on accident, but it's so boring to watch.
Accident.
Yeah. Spain tripped and was like, oh, I guess we're viable for a sec. I think the Gasol brothers were part of that. But... yeah, man, it's boring. I don't want to see LeBron James or whoever out there, KD. I don't want to, Kyrie. I want to see like the best amateur players go out and see if they can beat the best that any other country has. That's what I want to see. I feel like the competition would be better, and it's just kind of a chance for the little guy to go out there and make a name for himself. Like, there's not a LeBron of airsoft rifles, which is why that one chick won, like 19-year-old girl. So, is it something that you care about, or are you just like, fuck it, let's just continue to dominate forever and ever?
Well, I'm a sportsman to the end. I really enjoy the clutch. The closer, the better, in my opinion, for games. But honestly, if we're all playing by the same rules here, and they're bringing the best they can bring, I don't really see... it would just be shooting our own selves in the foot just for the sake of staying competitive, honestly.
I suppose. There's something to say about that, because it's not like the Canadians hold back in hockey.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but, man, it's just so boring.
It is terribly boring to watch. I was watching the highlight.
Is he gone?
I think we lost Dom for a second. Well, I was going to say it was kind of awkward seeing the U.S. play China, considering that the U.S. players are wearing Nike jerseys that were made in China. So that's a little awkward out there on the floor. No, I'll let me go full blown Lou here for a minute. First of all, Jake, we need professional athletes playing, at least American ones playing in the Olympics. America's not that great anymore, okay?
Oh God,
we're not that great. We need something to be able to wave our dicks around about, and basketball in the Olympics is it. Now that being said, how do I feel about NBA players playing for countries that are not America? Hey, Dirk Nowitzki, you want to go play for Germany? That's fine. You're not playing for the Dallas Mavericks anymore. You're going to go play in the German league, okay? Bullshit. You're going to come here and take US dollars. You're playing for the US Olympic team, or you're not playing for an Olympic team. That's horse shit, okay? That's what's bullshit. Americans can play in the Olympics. That's fine. Everybody else who might potentially be able to beat us, no, that's not okay.
We got to rig the game
Tony Parker is not allowed to play for France.
Well, he's
not
like
okay,
80,
Tony.
He's like 80 years old now. I think it's fine.
And doesn't he only have one eyeball? Didn't he lose an eye in a fucking bar fight or something last year?
What?
You don't remember that? Oh no, seriously. No, there was I can't remember. It was a C grade rapper. It wasn't like a Gucci Mane. It was like a I don't know any other rappers. I can't say. But
no.
Some rapper's entourage stabbed him in the face with a bottle.
I have the story. He almost lost his eye in a Drake/Chris Brown brawl.
Oh, those are two decent rappers, aren't they? Aren't they supposed to be good ones? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
I couldn't name a Chris Brown or Drake song if I heard them.
Chris Brown actually punched Rihanna in the face.
Oh, so that's why he messed up, because he's used to punching women. He's not used to punching men. So,
ouch.
If Tony Parker would have been a woman, he would have nailed him right in the face.
Yeah, and then Drake was the paralyzed Jimmy, who was the captain of the basketball team, and Degrassi, the next generation. Yeah.
No, I mean, look, as far as the Olympics, I don't give a shit about the Olympics. I think the Olympics are silly. I do not care about things like running and swimming. Running and swimming are not sports. It's just no one fucking cares about running. Okay, running is something that you do in sports. Swimming is just common sense. That's just not drowning. So I don't care at all about the Olympics. It's not something that I have national pride for. I do not give a shit. Quite frankly, I can't believe things like the NBA. I can't believe NBA contracts allow these guys to do this. I mean, if LeBron goes out there, because I mean that's the thing though. That's crazy, because the Olympics if the Summer Olympics are only every 4 years, but I mean we're looking at starting basketball season here in 5 months, or no, 4 months. We're going to be, or 4. What the fuck am I talking about? Here in 2 months, we're going to be back on the court. You've got 4 months from the time that the season ends. Right. These guys go out there and Chris Paul twists his ankle, or DeAndre Jordan trips and falls and busts up his knee or something.
Twists his ankle. Oh, it's like my ankle.
Whatever. My point is one of these guys goes out here and gets hurt playing for nothing. I can't believe that the Clippers are okay with Chris Paul out there. I can't believe that the Thunder would be okay with Russell Westbrook, or the Warriors are okay with Kevin Durant being out there. That's what blows my mind. I can't believe that their professional teams are okay with them doing this.
Right.
That being said, how amazing was it that the first gold medal given out in the Olympics was an American teenager with a gun?
Yeah, and then some 19-year-old girl destroyed the swimming. So yeah, we're doing well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't follow the Olympics. I don't care.
I won't want shit. Yeah, I don't know. I think we're jaded now because the world is so small from social media and stuff.
To me, it's not fun. You know what it is that ruins the Olympics for me? It's people like my mom who don't know shit about sports, but then whenever the Tour de France comes on, they watch it. Whenever the Olympics comes on, they watch it, and they try to talk to me as if they watch this stuff all the time. My thing, to John in our league, and John, member of the show, whenever John tries to say something like, "Oh, come on, Lou, running is blah, blah, blah," I'm like, all right, name 12 runners. Okay, I can name 12 NFL quarterbacks. You can't name 12 water polo players.
John has a weird wealth of knowledge for these obscure sports.
They're not fucking sports.
He probably has a favorite badminton duo.
That being said, I will say this, and this has nothing to do with the little shorts that they wear. I genuinely do not mean this. I actually got into watching volleyball, men's volleyball. No, I got into watching the volleyball game. I think that the United States played Puerto Rico, which is weird because that would be like the United States playing Florida. They're sort of our property. I don't know how to I don't know what the right word is.
I get you.
But yeah, the U.S. was playing Puerto Rico, and it was a really competitive game. And I don't know where me and the girlfriend were. We were at I can't remember where we were, but we were watching the game, and we got into it. We were really into the game.
The last Olympics I think I remember getting into was, I want to say it was 2008 because, I want to say it was 2008, and the Americans were playing the Canadians in hockey, and it was a really good game, and it came down to the wire. And I think the Canadians won by a goal. And I remember being into it then, but since then, no, I don't really care. So
I can imagine that the Olympics still really mean something to countries where national pride is a big deal. And I'm not saying I'm not proud to be an American or a Texan or anything like that, but it's not something I think about on a regular basis, where if you're in a third world country, and you have nothing in your life to look forward to on a daily basis.
Little cool runnings action.
Yeah, I mean, if
Cool
the Jamaican
runnings.
bobsled team, that means something to them. So,
Man, now I wish we had one of those Jamaican reggae horns, like, "Bah, bah, bah, cool runnings."
That's a Jamaican thing? I thought that was just a rap thing in general.
No, it's a reggae thing, specifically.
It is a reggae thing? Okay.
Yeah, but anyways, enough about the Olympics. Technical difficulties occurred, and Dominic died. Dominic is now a dead person. So R.I.P. Dom. Just kidding. I'm sure
honestly, thank God. I mean, I was tired of him.
Was it 3 episodes out and he's fucking garbage? Anyways, yeah, we're gonna come back next time. We're gonna talk about some NFC and AFC North, which I am super excited about because my Detroit Lions are there, and I'm happy about it. We're inching closer to the fantasy football season, which means that our fantasy draft will be. Oh yeah, I'm coming a little bit. Our fantasy draft will be live streamed.
I was just stretching.
Our fantasy draft will be live streamed for the Jake Apocalypse League, the 3rd or 4th year of the league. So 3rd year officially of the league on September 3rd. So get ready for that. And
They haven't kicked me out yet.
That'll be a lot of fun. And then we do live shows every Monday. So this Monday, come on down. I don't know what we're talking about yet, but we're probably gonna eat something weird and get weird. Everybody seems to like it. So the live shows are a lot of fun. Come on down to the show.
That's the price right.
That you can't. We'll get DMCA'd. Anyways, so for the recently deceased Dom and for the currently alive Lou, which might not happen very long. He's wearing tank tops and he keeps drinking cheap beer. I think he's dying a Texan's death, which will be to a Mexican at a border crossing. And I'm Jake, and this was Riding the Pine, and this is quality shit, man. You're welcome.
There's going to be a lot of sex.